Welcome back to We Still Like Each Other, the podcast. I'm Travis.
And I'm Stephanie.
And this is the podcast where we show that the honeymoon stage can last forever.
Forever and ever.
We're back.
We're back. And I feel like it seems like you're just going to always do the intro. You're better at it.
Yeah, I think I have the voice for it.
Yeah. So let's just not overcomplicate it. You do the intro.
Okay. I'm the intro guy. And I know there's people who like just listen to the audio that really like me in their ears.
Oh, God.
You know who you are.
I believe it, though. You have a nice voice.
It's like, what's that thing? ASMR?
ASMR. Did you hear while you were up here the other day? I was like watching a bunch of ASMR videos.
You're always watching weird shit.
It wasn't really ASMR videos. It was like super satisfying videos. And some of them had a lot of ASMR.
Yeah, it doesn't do it for me.
I was like in a zone on my phone. And one particular was like catching my attention. It was like they'll have a bowl of slime and then they'll pour wax over it and let it harden. So then they would crack the wax into the slime and it was like crack, crack, crack. Well, I just made it sound
whack,
but it was really good.
I guess it's no weirder than like watching someone clean someone's pimples off their face or blackheads or, you know.
Yeah, there's another thing that I've kind of liked. Watching people clean other people's houses, but like deep really clean. Dirty, nasty houses, and then the people just clean it.
What does that say about us?
I don't know. I feel like I would enjoy cleaning a hoarder's house, like organizing a hoarder's place, because I think I'd be intrigued by the shit I find in there. But I draw the line at when there's like roaches and nasty shit in there. If it was just like maybe like a storage bin.
Okay.
Something that
storage unit.
There won't be like moldy food, but
or even this was months ago, you probably even more, but we were watching that guy mow lawns.
Oh yeah, that shit was satisfying.
And it's a 20-minute video. I'm like, we're not gonna watch this, and we watched the whole fucking
He like uncovered fucking sidewalks that people didn't know were there, and he would power wash the walkways and
weird shit. But you know, it's entertaining.
Yeah. At least, you know, we're not doing drugs.
Are we? So what's going on, baby?
Nothing. I feel like it's been a pretty quiet week, but there's so much I want to talk about.
Okay.
So one thing I want to talk about regarding the podcast is a couple of episodes ago, we made a clip regarding us talking about our number, aka our body count, which is also known as how many people we slept with before we met. And the clip kind of made it seem like, could you believe that people don't talk about it? As if it's some sort of prerequisite to a good relationship, as if it's something you have to ask. That's not what I meant. I don't think anyone, and especially at our age or, you know, upper 20s, early 30s, 40s, like, we're too grown for that shit, right? It doesn't matter. I feel like for us, since we're like best friends and we just talk about everything, it was just like another layer we uncovered, and it was interesting to talk about, and it kind of speaks to our relationship as we're just super open with one another. I know there's been times where you're kind of almost too embarrassed to share something with me, and you're like, don't judge me for this. I'm like, literally just tell me. Yeah. And then we laugh about it. Because,
you know, I'm not happy or not proud of everything I've done in my life, right? Mm-hmm. But there's still experiences. And
I don't think there's anything that you're like, I'm not proud of it, like you're ashamed. I think some of the things that you hesitate to tell me are stigmatized. So you're like, I don't want you to look at me in a certain kind of way.
What do you mean, like a sexual activity or?
Yeah.
It's never really a
or like a person that you kind of been with or something.
It's never really a sexual activity. It's more so like, well, technically I had a girlfriend at that time, but don't worry about the timeline. But
because you were doing dog shit.
So that's why I say I'm not proud of it in that sense.
Okay.
But it's still my experiences.
Yeah. So my point is, no, talking about your body count is not necessity. Like, don't watch that clip or watch that episode and be like, well, babe, I want to know how many people you slept with and demand an answer, because I honestly don't think it's something people have to share. And I think when we did have the conversation, if I said I don't want to tell you, you would have respected that, I think.
Yeah. And that's younger me, or just, I remember being younger, and that's whenever you get to know someone, that was always like on the list of questions.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, all right, she only had 2, so she's good. And I was like,
so stupid. Because 1, you could easily lie. 2, it doesn't matter.
I will say, and I don't know if I said this on the podcast, but at a young age, I quickly figured out that the more, the better.
How so?
Because she was experienced. She was with the shits. I don't need a.
But you could be. See, you could also be a person who's only had 1 or 2 partners, but had a lot of sex with those 1 or 2 people. True. You know, and experimented, and
young Travis
got better.
Young Travis was like, "Oh, you got so and so bodies. Oh, you're ready to go."
Yeah. Well, what you should have been thinking was like, ooh, they have risk-taking behaviors I should be worried about.
You sound judgy.
I know. I'm kidding. Listen, do you, as long as you're safe, you're not hurting anybody, do you. The body count conversation does not need to happen. It was more so just, oh shit, like we really talk about everything kind of shit. That doesn't make us better than anyone. You could have a really open relationship, a very open and honest relationship with your partner, and then that's something you don't need to talk about. It's not necessary. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. Anything going on this week that you want to talk about?
No.
Okay, good. Thank you for saying no and not saying,
let me think about it.
Let me think about it. So there's
it was
two
a quick
things.
week, I will say that though.
Okay, yes. There's 2 things that came up. One is there was a U.S. senator from the state of Rhode Island
backing that ass up
on the beach, on a headstand,
hopping it on a handstand,
twerking. And of course, the internet proved that it's a weird place, and everybody was judging her.
Like most things.
A lot of the things I saw was like judging her.
Yeah.
So a lot of the commentary was, as a senator, we don't want our senators twerking and X, Y, and Z. What are your thoughts on that, babe?
I think it's time for change. I think we need to get out with this. You know, they say get rid of the old regime, but literally our regime is old in the sense of age and, you know, talking like 70-plus-year-old men making decisions for the youth. Doesn't add up. So what do people do nowadays? They twerk. It's just acceptable. All shades of color twerk. It's not. And
they make TikToks and they use social media. If we think about Barack Obama's first win, a lot of it was credited to Twitter and the use of social media to push his campaign. And our politicians are getting with the times, right? That's one thing, the use of social media. But the other thing is the act itself of twerking, being in a bikini, being in a thong bikini, is seen as unprofessional.
Sexual.
Yes, as if professional people are not sexual beings, or as if professional people have to kind of have this hidden sexual I don't even know how to term it, but basically, yes, they're sexual, but no one's supposed to know about it. We got to pretend like they're not. Keep it behind closed doors. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I definitely know that that's a thing going on in the world where we just expect a certain group of people to behave a certain type of way. And if they come outside that box, then they're deemed unworthy of being in that position.
Or they lose credibility.
But I say grow up because, you know, although some people choose to live more private lives, it doesn't change the fact that you could be in a certain position and still enjoy sex, still enjoy the dance. How you dance is up to you.
Yeah.
This doesn't necessarily twerking is like a solo activity. It's not like you have a guy, but I mean, sometimes that can happen. Yeah. But it's not like you have a guy behind you like grinding on you.
She was literally by herself on the beach.
And if I'm not mistaken, it was to like gain.
Yeah, at the end, she was like, vote for me, because she's going up for re-election.
Yeah.
There's someone that we follow, a fellow podcaster. There's this podcast called Quién, Eres. Okay. And the whole mission of this podcast is to redefine what professionalism is. So if you want to, know more about that topic and like pushing those boundaries of what professionalism is, I would recommend tuning into that podcast. But it kind of reminds me of like when I went on a job interview for a teacher. It wasn't an interview. I had to do a demo lesson. I had platinum blonde hair, and I just felt like they're not going to take me seriously with this platinum blonde hair. And I dyed it black the day before.
And it was like shoe polish
black. It was
black.
so black. It turned out so bad. It was terrible. But like, you know, those things. Or like if I had my big afro, I'm like, oh, wait, let me put it back in a low bun so it looks a little bit more professional. Or I was the only teacher really at my job that I wore Jordans and with my blazers and suits. And is that unprofessional? Did some of my colleagues not take me seriously? Yeah. Having to code switch because who you are is deemed unprofessional.
Yeah.
So definitely that podcast talks a lot about that. And it speaks to representation, right? Because if you are a young Black girl in America who is into politics, but you also like to twerk and dance, and you see a politician who's like you can see yourself in that position, right? Instead of thinking like, I'm going to have imposter syndrome. There's no way a girl like me who likes to twerk can also be multidimensional and be a politician.
I think the more time passes, and it's going to be a long time, but I think that's going to matter less. Like we have teachers who do pole dancing and...
But even that, you say it like as if it's normal. Like I know teachers who pole dance, but it's like hiding your page, changing your name, not using your name anywhere, hoping none of your colleagues see it. And I've heard of like teachers getting fired because they had a OnlyFans account. You know? And it's like, where do we draw the line of... Because of course, you don't want your students having access to your OnlyFans information. But if you're a teacher, all your children are under 18, why are they on OnlyFans?
That's on the parents.
That's on the parents. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think it's shifting as much as you just made it sound.
Yeah, or not fast enough.
Yeah. And people aren't as open. It's like teachers are seen as asexual beings, just like politicians.
They're all hypocrites because when it's time to like celebrate like a bridesmaid's party, then they want strippers and to go to the strip club
and wear dick necklaces and
dick popsicles and all that. But then, you know, that's it. It's
appropriate there.
And then we go back to our, you know, we can be senators and whatever, governors, but then that was just a bridesmaid's party. That's acceptable. But after that, it's like Christmas. So annoying.
Yeah. But yeah. You ready, baby, for your did you know?
Yeah. My did you know? Did you know? Did you know a man can reduce his chances of getting prostate cancer by having at least 4 orgasms a week? Take care of your man.
And no, don't forget you have a hand. 4 hand jobs a week. And you'll be set.
That's not how I wanted this to go.
So wait, what was it? If you orgasm 4 times a week, you have reduced your chance of what?
Prostate cancer.
Okay.
Greatly reduced.
So you're going to live forever.
Well, I'm saying for all the men who aren't having orgasms 4 times a week, and maybe you have like a little carpal tunnel. Ladies, take care of your man.
No.
That's not the message.
That's not the message.
Okay.
Take care of yourself. Go get that carpal tunnel taken care of.
Fleshlight.
Yeah, there's a lot of other benefits to like a healthy sex life as well. I think just in terms of stress release in general.
Yeah, I think I've talked about that before. Yeah, it's a great setup for success. That's all I'll say.
I wonder how they collected this data. So when I think about like research and data, is like when it comes to ejaculation and prostate health, like how long were they keeping up with these men and how were they ensuring that they were like coming 4 times a week?
I feel like if it were like a man who came up with this data and maybe he wasn't having sex with his wife, he'd be like, a man can reduce his chances of getting prostate cancer by having at least 4 vaginal
Like,
insertion.
but that's also true. Where is this data coming from?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Do I trust it right away? Or do I see
It
the source?
It sounds good to me. I don't even need a source.
What is your prostate? I feel like I don't even know enough about what a prostate
Isn't that something
is.
in the ass?
I don't know. What is? I'm gonna look up. What is your prostate? What is a prostate?
Mm-hmm.
It's a walnut-sized gland located between the bladder and the penis. The prostate is just in front of the rectum. So you were not wrong by saying it's in your ass.
What movie was that where she was like, there was a thing where she milks the prostate and she could like make him come by putting a finger up his ass?
Oh, because that part of guys like between their balls and their butt is like super sensitive.
I'm Jamaican. I don't know what you're talking about.
So maybe that's why. Maybe there's like some nerve endings connected to
What
your
movie
prostate.
was that? Damn. It'll come back to me.
So she milked.
It's called milking the prostate.
Oh God! See,
It was in the
Travis be
movie.
knowing too much shit. I don't know, but yeah, it makes sense. It's all connected to that area, so maybe something to do.
This did you know took a left.
Oh gosh! All right. Let me get out of this prostate and go back to our outline for this episode. And today's episode is a lot about sex.
Okay, so I picked a good did you know?
You did. And I feel like a lot of times when we just happen to talk about sex, we get a lot of questions, a lot of responses. Sex is such a taboo topic that people find comfort in hearing us talk about it, and they kind of open up, have questions, and fuck it. Let's give the people what they want.
Sex sells.
And I also found some very interesting information. I follow this sex therapist. I'm fucked up. I should have wrote their name, but I'll link the page in the description. And she basically pointed out some interesting things about sex that reminded me of a lot of the questions we get from some of our listeners. So a few episodes back or a while back, we talked about having two different sex drives in a relationship and making that work, right? And I feel like we get a lot of questions about that. Like, I'm this way, my partner's that way. How do we make it work? You know, I think I'm doing my best, but it's still not working. Like, how do I make it work? And I think a lot of it comes down to communication and being intentional, right? So I came across this idea, right, that is called spontaneous desire and responsive desire. So before I get into what they are, I want to know what you think. What do you think spontaneous desire is?
Like a quickie?
Okay, so a quickie is like a manifestation of spontaneous desire, I will say.
Spontaneous.
So it's more so the way you become horny, I guess.
So it's just like, oh, I randomly got a hard on. Let's go.
And not only a hard on, but like I randomly want to have sex.
Yeah, because I have random hard ons.
And sometimes you have a hard on and you're not horny.
Yeah.
It's just physiological things that happen. But spontaneous desire is kind of like I could be horny out the blue, right? You're considered a person who has like a high sex drive, or you're always down. You're probably never going to turn down sex, right? So then what do you think responsive desire is?
Someone who's down when the other person's down, basically.
So only down when the other person's down. Okay. Give me a little more. Responsive. Think of the term that responsive.
Yeah, I feel like that's what I got.
Okay, so it's kind of the opposite of spontaneous, right? So you're probably the partner who will turn down sex sometimes. It takes a little more to stimulate you and get you to be horny. You kind of need to be warmed up. Foreplay is going to be super important for you. Or you need some sort of stimulus, right? Like you might not be horny at all, but you're like, okay, if I use my toy, my vibrator for a little bit, or if I watch porn, or if I'm watching a movie and there's a sex scene, that might arouse me. Like you need some sort of stimulus to get there. So that kind of reminded me of that conversation, like having two separate sex drives and having these two terms kind of gives you a perspective. Like nothing's wrong with me. I'm just easily aroused. I'm more of I have spontaneous desire, or I'm responsive. It's not that anything's wrong with me or that I'm broken or I have a low sex drive. It's just my sex drive, my desire needs some massaging.
Gotcha. So one's like an electric car. You can just turn it on and go. And the other is like a old school sports car where you need to warm up the engine. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I guess.
I like my car analogies.
Yes. So with this, what I think could be helpful is that having responsive desire does not mean you don't like sex, or you're not, I'm never in the mood.
Can you switch between the two, you think? Or is it either or?
So, I don't know. I feel like it's mostly one or the other. And again, I'm going based off us, right? I feel like you've never, ever turned down sex.
No.
Because even if I'm in a spontaneous desire kind of mood, okay, so I see what you're saying. It could switch. Because I feel like I have my spontaneous moments, but then I also have my moments where I need to be more reactive. Like I might respond to you. You're very like,
what's up?
You're ready to go. And even if you're not thinking about it, but I am, you could easily, quickly jump into the mood.
Yeah, for sure. Before you continue.
Okay. My
friend asked me the other day, if you were like really sick.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
And your girl, this is what he said, your girl wanted to give you head, would you turn it down? I said, hell no. You're going to get this fever dick. I said there's not much that could stop me from turning down a sexual activity.
Also, don't turn down fever dick. It's pretty nice. It's warm.
I wish I could name the episode Fever Dick.
Fever Dick. No.
But I guess same question for you. Do you feel like if you were sick, you would turn down I won't narrow it down to oral, but sexual activity in general?
Me, I feel like, yeah. Like I could be, like if I have a headache, I don't like having sex. If I'm feeling sick, it depends. Like if I'm recovering and I'm feeling okay, yeah. But if I'm like stuffy, I can't breathe, like I'm not trying to have sex. Like, no.
Hold on, let me blow my nose. All right, let's go.
No, where I feel like you could be on your deathbed and you probably, like if you turn down sex, I'd be like, nah, something's wrong. Like we really need to go to the hospital.
I gotta prank you on like a week. I probably couldn't do it though.
Yeah, you couldn't. I'll be like, is everything okay?
I'm gonna try and prank you once. But then I'm worried I might fuck up the mood. Like if I turn you down and then be like, oh, I was just kidding. You're like, fuck you.
Yeah. That's weird. And it's funny because I remember my younger self, toxic Stephanie, not knowing any better. I thought like if a guy turned you down, like something's wrong with you. Mm-hmm. Like, oh my God, I'm not attractive, or like, you don't want me. Whereas like sometimes men need breaks too. And sometimes men are just not in the mood.
And let me say, in defense of myself, I have turned down sex before. Like sex I knew I shouldn't have been having.
Okay.
But in our marriage,
yeah,
where it's me and you, I'm never going to turn down sex. But if it was like, you know.
You know what's funny? Because you never turned me down, I feel like it has fed into my insecurities of like worried about infidelity, and I'm like, he never turns down sex, so like
that's a false narrative.
If a person like wanted to fuck, he'd be with it, like anybody. And that's me feeding my brain and like worrying about shit I shouldn't have to, but I do acknowledge how that has fed into my insecurity, and I'm like, he just will do it whenever, wherever.
So, in order to heal you, I need to turn you down a little.
No, baby. I'm over it. But I'm saying like in the past that has like been some poison in my mind.
I think it's something worth acknowledging and maybe working through.
Yeah.
Because it probably does go through a lot of people's minds.
Mm-hmm. Like, oh my God, he loves sex or she loves sex so much. Like, does that mean they're going to just always be this way with anybody, with any opportunity that they get. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my little piece of advice with this, based on things we've spoken about, is if you acknowledge that you're more of a responsive person, is that the word? Am I changing it? Yes, responsive. If your partner is initiating sex and you're not in the mood, but you know that you're a responsive person, like you can get in the mood, you know, try to get there. Allow your partner time to put you in that space. And I feel like I said something similar to that a couple weeks ago without having this terminology. Like, do you not like sex? Or are you just not always in the mood right away? But if you do initiate it, or if you do allow your partner to initiate it, you end up enjoying sex.
Well, what do you do in a situation where both people are responsive?
Ooh, then you're not going to have much sex. But I feel like then at that point, it might not become a problem. Oh, that's tricky.
Because it doesn't, a responsive person doesn't necessarily not like sex, right? Mm-hmm. They just might not be the quote unquote aggressor.
Mm-hmm. But if there's two people in a relationship that neither of them are the aggressor.
You make a move. No, you make a move.
I guess at that point, it becomes down to how often do you want to have sex? Is sex a stress reliever for you? Then you have to be more intentional, right? What is the stimulus, right? Because a responsive person gets turned on by something. Like, are you going to have to watch a sexy movie? Are you going to have to put sexy music on? Are you going to have to do a date night? Are you going to have to watch porn or do something together to get you there? If sex is also fulfilling some other thing, like stress relief. Does that make sense?
Yeah. We were doing some long distance foreplay the other day.
Oh. We were.
I think you would ask me, like, what got into you?
Yeah, because it's been a while. We hadn't done that.
But I was just texting some things, like,
yeah,
I won't say it, but thanks. Basically, like, be ready when I get home type activities.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. And I think it was probably some of the best sex we had in a while because it was so much build up. And then I think since we had so much build up, we both were like having something to prove. Like, this shit about to be good. Like I said it was going to be.
And then after I was like, that didn't disappoint. Because there's nothing worse than the build up
and then it's whack. Yeah, definitely. But that's actually going to come up. Sexting is going to come up in something else I wanted to talk about. So the other thing I want to talk about is we hear a lot about 5 love languages, right? And how to love one another. And how to love someone doesn't always necessarily mean sex. But I came across something through the same sex therapist that there's 5 styles of sexual initiation. And one of them was that, like the sex talk, which can manifest in sexting and talking about like what you want. Another one that's very similar is provocative seduction. And in this, you're very direct. Like you're very just open and honest about what you want. And that kind of turns someone on.
Yeah, I think there's a honesty gets me going. I'm not sure how we could use that though.
Just being like,
because in a long-term relationship, because we have talked about so much.
Mm-hmm. Just I feel like for me, it's kind of like when you are just very vocal. Like if you come out the room looking good, and I tell you, like, damn, you look good right now. Like, what you trying to do? That's just like using words to like be very straightforward and very honest about what you want, or like touching, right? In a way like that's very indicative of like, I'm trying to do some things. But my point in saying this is that it might not work for everybody, just like love languages, right? Maybe that is kind of like too much. It's like intimidating, like too direct for somebody. Like, whoa. And you also got to know when to do it, when to use it, right? Like if my head is fucking about to explode because the baby's crying and I'm doing this and the dinner's on and you're like, ooh, I can't wait for tonight. Well, what you gonna say?
I was gonna say like, ooh, you looking good right now. And you're just like, the fuck?
Like, if you don't bring your ass over here and help me with this baby,
Yeah.
like, you know, it might be like annoying. And some people just aren't into it. It might be too much. It might be awkward. It might be like, I don't need you to be that direct. I like more indirect versions of sex talk, you know? Touch is another one. So we talked about the sex talking, the provocative seduction. Touch is another one. So it's like caressing your partner. What are other examples of touch that are not so sexual, but are sexual ways to initiate sex?
Well, I know for us, even if we're in a large group of people, like I'll touch you just to let you know that you're still like there in my mind, you know? So even if it's just like rubbing your back, touching your hand, I could still be in mid conversation, but you're going to know that I'm still very aware of you.
Yeah. There was a couple of memes going around, and it's like when you're in the car with your partner and your man kind of grabs your thigh and they're like, oh, this is like A1. And then the guy's version of it is like if the woman grabs the back of your neck. Basically, it can happen. Whoever's driving does the thigh grab. Whoever's in the passenger seat does the neck grab.
Okay.
You know, like that kind of.
I'm usually the driver, so.
Yeah, he does not let me drive.
We don't argue about who drives, though.
We don't.
I just get in the driver's seat and drive.
But I will say, you do have to let me drive sometimes because.
I know what you're gonna say.
What I'm gonna say?
Well, you brought it up last week or the week before when you went somewhere to help you, Roxy. You're like, I have to drive because you know a lot of women who like stay home for long periods of time and they forget this skill because they're like, oh, my husband always drives, and then 10, 15 years goes by and you're like, you don't know what the hell you're doing.
You do be listening to me because I forgot that I said that. So yeah, touch. I struggle with this sometimes because yes, touch can be a way to initiate sex. But sometimes I just want to touch you and be close to you. And then I'm like, Travis thinks everything is sexual initiation. I'm like, relax.
I can usually tell the difference. Okay. Usually.
You've gotten better. You have.
You make me sound like the biggest horn dog.
Spontaneous desire.
I have boundaries, and I know I can pick up on when this is a touch just because I want to love up on you, and this is a touch because I want to come up on you.
Mm-hmm. Or even like cuddling, and you're like, you want to be spooned.
Come up on you, Joe.
Oh, come up on. My bad. Yeah, cuddling, right? It's like, I want to spoon, but then it's like, your penis is on my butt, and then that's very suggestive, and it's like, I just want to cuddle, but you're like, damn, but this is like perfect to get something started, and it's like, fuck. So it's like, damn, I ain't even gonna cuddle with you right now.
Sometimes, and I know this happens, you could confirm, I'll be the little spoon and she's holding me, and
he's saying sometimes, like he ain't mostly the little spoon.
No,
I like being the big spoon.
Sometimes me being the little spoon. I'm gonna say follow up with something.
Okay, sorry.
So she's going to just wrap her arms around me, but sometimes she'll like accidentally like brush up against me, if you know what I mean. And I feel like you like quickly like, wait, I don't want you to think I was trying to initiate something. Like she'll quickly move up her hand to my stomach and be like, this was just I'm holding you tighter, not I'm trying to initiate something. But
it's like you could read my mind.
But at that point, don't brush up against me, girl.
You're so annoying. I love you though.
But is it true?
It's true. But you've gotten better at knowing the difference, because I feel like earlier on you would have been like really quick to take advantage of that accidental brush up on you. Whereas now you're like, I know she didn't mean that.
I need a few more accidents before I know it's safe.
Right. I gotta be more direct. And that's the thing. Like, one thing that's good about our communication, our sexual communication, is that we can be very direct. Like, I could be like, nope, don't want that right now. Or like, babe, what's up? Or
I will say that nose used to be hard for me.
Oh, I thought you meant nose, like somebody's nose, like what you breathe with. I'm like, nose what? So when I would turn you down.
Yeah, I don't want to call it rejection. But just you weren't in the mood and I was, and it was just like, not tonight. That used to be a hard pill for me to swallow early on. And I can't really pinpoint what made it get better.
I was fucking tight.
Well, oh yeah.
I feel like we got into a real big conversation about that.
You also used to say that the no would lead to me kind of being cold.
Yeah, you would treat me like shit. I'm sorry, but it's true.
But then, you get to a place, it's like, this is my forever person and we're going to have lots of sex and it's okay if we don't some days. And, that made it easier for me. And I never want to be mean, or not mean, but I don't want to be cold towards you because of that. So once I got over that, I feel like we've been in a much better place because of it.
I feel like a lot of it for you too was that feeling of rejection, or feeling unwanted. Like for you, you felt like I'm not attractive to her or something. Like you used to feel like, does she not want me? Versus like, I just didn't want to have sex.
Yeah, and also for me, it used to solidify like everything I was feeling. So it's like, all right, this is like the stamp on the envelope, basically. Like all these feelings we have, all the great day we had, let's solidify all that by being sexual. And if it didn't happen,
then our day wasn't as good as I thought.
Exactly. Whereas now it's like we have all that and it's just like pass out next to each other. And that to me is just as good of a day as if we both bust some nuts.
Oh gosh. All right. So we talked about 3 of the 5 styles. There's 2 more. One is emotional connection. So this is kind of, if I relate it to the 5 love languages, it's like quality time in a sense. Like being intentional about building an emotional connection, planning dates, romantic gestures, something that's going to make your partner like, "Aw, that made me horny." There's some people who, if you trigger an emotional response from them, it kind of turns them on in a sense.
Do you think, but also you want to say that just because you extend yourself that way, like you plan something, doesn't mean that it's going to end in sex, and that's okay too.
Yeah, because everybody's style of sexual initiation is different, just like everybody's love language is different. But that doesn't mean they're going to respond to it the same exact way every single time. And that's okay. That's the nuances of life and emotions and feelings and desires. I do get messages like, I did this, that, and they still don't want to have sex. Like, they don't have to. Sometimes a lot of what's missing is communication versus a certain action. We're not mind readers. Our partners may not understand how important sex is because sex is so taboo.
I think that advice is like the best advice you can give to a couple struggling with anything, not even just sex. Like your partner isn't a mind reader. It's okay to tell them what you're wanting and feeling in a moment and let them do with that as they will.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people at least can agree with that. Communication is key, right? It's so cliche. But how do you talk about sex without it being awkward, without it being uncomfortable, without it feeling like I'm a horn dog and sex is so important to me?
I don't know. I feel like you wouldn't. I feel like the person you choose to live your life with would be receptive and not make you feel that way. So is there something to be said about your partner making you feel like you're a horn dog or whatever the case is because you want to have a conversation about your lack of sex or just a change up of your sexual activities?
But it also it's indicative of our culture that sex is so taboo and so difficult to talk about. Like a lot of people still feel that sex needs to be organic. Like it's just gonna happen. It'll fall into place. And only good sex is very like, it just happens. There's no need to talk about it.
And we're adults and we know that that's not the case. Because how, I feel like I'm having deja vu, but how are you going to know I like my balls tickled if I don't tell you?
Yeah.
It's a joke. You know, I'm joking, but there's some truth to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I can't like be out with my friends and be like, you know, she never does this or that. And then if someone says, well, you told her?
Did you ask her? Yeah. Communication is so big. It's making me think of the other day. I'm not going to be too graphic, but I remember even during sex, there's communication that needs to happen.
Tell the people, baby.
I'm not going to say exactly what, but I remember he was doing something that I liked and then he kind of changed. And I was like, no, go back to that. Go back to doing what you were doing before. And I feel like younger me, that would have been difficult to do, right?
And I appreciate it because who wants to be there doing something your partner's not enjoying just because you think you're killing it right now?
And then another thing is, if you're like really enjoying something and then your partner switches to something else, it's going to lead to faking an orgasm because you're going to like, okay, I got to maintain this level of enthusiasm even though I'm not feeling the same level of pleasure I was 5 seconds ago. Whereas you could easily be like, go back to that. And then you can actually orgasm correctly. So even communication during sex is so helpful. Obviously, you don't want someone, you're not going to have good sex.
Hold on, let me get the manual.
If every 5 seconds you're like, do this and change that. But you got to be more comfortable with just being honest about what you want, what you like and what you don't like and what you're feeling and not feeling.
I think I struggle with that as a man because it's not really a man thing to do to be like, do more of that. But also,
I feel like it's not a man thing, quote unquote, to just communicate.
That's true.
So if we go by that, like you got to push yourself no matter who you are, what your gender is. Like you got to be able to communicate, express yourself. Remember you said you're working on it, babe?
Am I? How old is that clip?
I know it's still making its rounds. People still calling me crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah. We went on a whole tangent about, what was it, emotional connection, communicating about what you want. Oh, because we were saying, even if you plan the date, that doesn't mean you're getting laid. Point taken. So the last one is the power play style. I kind of like this. And
Power
I feel,
play.
yes, power play. So in power play, it's kind of like you're using control or being controlled. So you're being like dominant or submissive.
Okay.
To create eroticism, right? So you're taking charge of the situation, you're being spontaneous, or there's role playing involved.
Okay.
And the reason this one intrigued me, and I'm like, I think this might be one of my ways, is because in general, and who I am as a person, I'm very dominant, right? So once in a while, when that I don't have to be, it's kind of hot.
For example?
Like if you just make a decision for us based on something. Like this is what we're doing. It's kind of hot. It's kind of like, ooh. That's kind of like, I don't know. I like that.
All right.
You know what I mean? Like those.
All right.
To a certain extent.
She's like, don't get crazy.
Don't get crazy. And you got to have consent too, right? So like, if
but it's not just sexual. It could be like,
yeah, it could just be in life, like in general, everyday things. It's a turn on when your partner, what is the word? Like they take control of something. They make a decision for you. Like the old argument that every couple has about what we're getting for dinner. It would be so many less arguments of that if one partner just said, this is what we're having for dinner. And that's it. Like, this is what we're doing.
Okay.
And, you know, we talk about people like, oh, we should hang out Friday. What we're going to do? But if a person comes to you and says, oh, you're free Friday? Okay, I got us. I'll plan what we're doing.
Or I'm sure you've heard this from a lot of your single girlfriends where it's like a guy wants to take them out. And it's like, what do you want to do?
And it's like, no, tell me what we're doing, bro. Like, what's your idea of a date and what we're gonna do and interest. And I think that's a good way to get to know people. Like, what date do they plan? Is it gonna be a braggadocious date that's like super expensive? It's gonna be super thoughtful. Yeah. So take charge sometimes.
So after this podcast, we get in the baby and we're gonna go get bubble tea. I don't want to hear no lip.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it worked.
I want some bubble tea. And I feel like in actual sex, that role play, that dominance is really cool.
That's like shit. Baby boy. It's like, you gonna make them tacos while he was
Yes, exactly.
Yes, I'll make the tacos.
But if it's like 2 PM and you're just like, bitch, gonna make me tacos, you're gonna get slapped. Right? But the power role is good. Or like, there's been a lot of talk about submissive women and whatever. And I can see how it's attractive if you're with a partner who is dominant and you could be submissive because of the way that you're taken care of in the relationship.
Yeah, and also you need a good leader. And I mean, they have to be a good leader because you can't just be submissive to some ain't shit person, you know?
And you know me, I don't like the term submissive in general, but I get it. Like, in a relationship, your partner and y'all each take on separate roles to make your lives easier. You both can't be doing the same exact things because then it's redundant.
Yeah.
So then sometimes someone is submissive, but I don't think a person is submissive. I think it flip-flops depending on the situation.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think, yeah, because I was just thinking about us and I feel like we both can fall into that role.
Definitely.
Me
like,
more, so.
You more? You're more submissive?
Oh, yeah. You don't agree?
I guess because I'm like a natural like leader in a sense of like the home.
I was going to say you're from the Bronx. So I was gonna say.
Why you made that face? I feel like it's in my nature. Like even in my friend groups, I'm the mom. I'm the planner. I cook. I like take care of people. That's just in my nature. But I feel like that has also been like a problem sometimes for us.
For us?
Yeah.
How so?
Like sometimes I'm like, what decisions have you made? Like, why is it always on me?
Yeah.
We've had those conversations.
And that's the tricky part with your personality because you're kind of you want to be a hybrid. Right? But
I want to be a hybrid.
Like,
what that means?
In the sense that you do want you're a natural leader and you have no problem leading. But then there's like this 25% of the time where you're like, I just want to sit in the back seat and just see where the car goes.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, but you always lead. Like, what's the problem? And
I think that just gets to me when I'm overwhelmed and I need a break, and I feel like I can't take a break because who's gonna pick it back up? And I just kind of sometimes I'm like, I want to feel like, oh, Travis got that, and for the most part, you do. It's just my shit and like me stressing and being overwhelmed and being like, lead, even though you're like, what?
I was just trying to decide what to watch on TV. Yeah. Lead.
Yeah. All right. I have just a tip that's a little controversial.
Let's hear it.
Orgasm does not have to be the goal of every time you have sex.
For who?
Anybody.
Orgasm does not have to be the goal of every time you have sex.
So obviously you're like, for who? Because men like come on cue. Obviously it's more difficult for women.
So you're more so putting this on women.
I'm not putting it on women. I'm just saying you can have good sex that you don't necessarily orgasm. Because there's a lot of women who can't. Does that mean their sex life is horrible? No, right? There's quickies. There's time if you're having a quickie, most of the time as a woman, you're not gonna come, but you had a good time. You enjoyed yourself. You released some stress. You felt good. Your endorphins were up, but it was still good.
Yeah, and I also think it's a little different for heterosexual couples because there is usually, you know, how sex ends for the most part.
Mm-hmm. The man.
But, you know, and even in gay couples.
Right word. Like, they both got to come at the same time.
But
it's sad that that's the indicator of when sex ends. Like, the guy comes.
So, you know, some men are built different and they can keep going. That's happened to me like a few times. But it's
nobody asked you.
For those of you playing bingo and need to take whatever. But more so for lesbian couples or say, you know, me trying to not say the wrong thing, whatever. More so for lesbian couples, there's no necessary end.
Yeah. Lesbian sex could be long.
Why are you smiling?
I had a flashback. No, but it's true. Lesbian sex could be mad long because it's true. There's no like that moment that like, unless you're like a squirter type of shit, but I've only encountered one squirter in my life, so it's not as common.
Same, and it's overrated.
Yeah. It's cool.
It's cool once.
It's messy.
But then when you're changing your sheets all the time, it's like, all right, bro, this is...
But if I was a squirter, though, I'd be hyped. I feel like I'd be like, I don't know. I think I'm even more popping. I don't know. Like, in my head, it seems like so cool.
It's cool, like, the first few times. And then you're like, you're a squirter and this is annoying. Especially if you don't have a washer dryer in your house.
Yeah, and your mattress getting all fucking wet all the time.
Just smelling like pee.
Oh my God. You gotta get like the plastic cover on your mattress.
And then now your mattress is making all them sounds.
Well, no, if you're a squirter, I'm a little envious. And I feel like it like elevates your bad bitch status just a little bit.
Squirters. DM us.
Yeah. And you know, a lot of times people who have sex with women think it's their fault their girl can't squirt. No. But it's like, I feel like some women can, some can't.
How do we get here?
Right? Whatever. But yes, we got here because it's okay to have sex that you don't necessarily orgasm in. Like, you could still have good sex without that.
Yeah.
You aren't broken. You aren't a bad sexual partner if your partner doesn't come each and every single time. Like, if you have to prioritize your partner's pleasure, of course. But like the word orgasm, especially a female orgasm, is so like, is elusive the word I'm looking for? Like, it's like, you can have good sex without it, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I all jokes aside, I do agree. And I'm sure, like, nobody write in, but I'm sure I haven't made everyone come.
Oh, I'm sure you have. Oh God, Travis is so... Okay, go ahead, baby. I'm sorry. I love you.
I'm sure. I'm talking down. I'm trying to clown myself.
But you're making it seem like I'm maybe once or twice, as if
10 to 15.
Okay, whatever.
Damn, you made me lose my point.
I'm sorry.
There's been times where it's just like, and I'm sure maybe this has even happened with us, where like we're doing something we're not supposed to in a certain area or something. And it's like, all right, well, we can't. But it got the blood pumping.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and that was fun, and it's still something I'll think about.
Like, you do try to wait for me, but then sometimes I'm like, oh, the baby's about to wake up. We gotta hurry up. Like, I'm like, I can't think about coming right now. Like, we gotta go.
You're like, hurry up.
You're like, okay. You're like, I'm done.
You said it was okay.
Yeah. But it still relieves some stress. Like, it was still a fun moment, cute moment. We were able to reconnect. And
it's almost even more exciting because now you're like, well, we're going to have to finish at some point today.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully.
Sometimes, yeah.
It's turned into the sex episode.
Yeah. It was intended to be.
Yeah. Okay.
Daddy.
Mommy.
Do you still like me?
I still like you. And we're going to get this bubble tea. I don't want to hear nothing about it.
Can we eat ramen too?
Yes.
They have other things you like, baby. You don't have to eat ramen.
We're going to eat ramen.
I'm going to eat ramen. You could eat something else.
All right.
You get your edamame.
Oh, yeah.
They have dumplings or gyoza.
Okay. I know where we're going.
Yay.
Peace, y'all.
Peace.